Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve Ramona and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast. Steve Ramona.
One. Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am fired up to have you join us today. My guest today has already got me. He's taught me some things within 5 minutes. In 20 minutes, he's going to teach you a lot. Now, we built this podcast and created the podcast, the idea of exploring how to increase your life and your business with a purpose. What's that purpose? A servant's heart. Doing business with a servant's heart, doing life with a servant's heart. And imagine the impact and difference you can make daily. Yeah, you can do this daily. I'm not saying send $1 million to a nonprofit. You can't do that daily. Well, some people can, but 99.9% can't. It could be just telling people they have a beautiful smile, whatever it may be, having that mindset forefront of a servant's heart. We also bring guests in that are going to motivate you, inspire, and educate you on how they use a servant's heart to either get over an obstacle, to grow, to be super successful, whatever it may be. Powerful message. Again, I was telling my guests before the show, anybody can do this. And I want to thank my sponsor, Pantheon Alliance, join a community of high-income entrepreneurs and business leaders to create a world-changing thought leader platform to help grow and build a massive community to help others. For more information on Pantheon, just let me know and I'll get you all that information. Before we start the show, here's your call to action today, audience. Think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today and what impact you're going to create today. Today's the word. Today's there. We always wait on things, but this is so powerful. I guarantee you, reach out to me, send me an email. Hey, you serve somebody today. Let me know the response. If you're not smiling, then we need to talk and I got to help you serve more. With that being said, leadership, giving back, helping people, supporting people is big with my guest. And just spending 5 minutes, I could tell he's got the servant's heart. He's always looking at ways to help people grow. I want to grow, don't you? So let's welcome Casey to the show. Casey, welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Steve. I'm honored to join you. It's going to be a fun, looking forward for a fun conversation.
You're big in leadership, especially sales, but let's go to the very general leadership or servant leadership. What's your definition?
It's a math equation. It's H plus C plus V equals leadership. I also say H plus C plus V equals relationship building too. I think the best salespeople, the best leaders have these three characteristics, which are humility, vulnerability, and curiosity.
Love it.
And even this week, I've had two of my clients. It's funny, like I've been doing this for 5 years, but for whatever this week, I had two, one of executive leader, one first line manager, and they said, that H plus C plus V is in my head and it won't leave. I'm like, yes, love it.
And I do. It's exactly, for me, it's inbred in me. I know for you, talking to you, that when you meet people, when you get into situations, that's part of your DNA. How can people make this part of their DNA?
I think it's a mindset. I mean, I think it starts with belief, which is why the sign's behind me. You got to believe in what you do matters. I think the mind is one of the most powerful tools that most people don't work on. They like to exercise, but we don't like to innercise. You know, so I think when you believe, you start with belief and you realize that I can either, blame others or blame myself. I can either ask for help or let my ego get in the way. I either can pretend I know everything or I can ask one more question. And I think so. A lot of these things are either all fixable things. And so it's a choice. I try to remove anxiety-based language from me and my people I work with, which is like words like, I need to do that. I should do that. I have to do that, which creates no plan. Instead, I always write down when I'm going to do something, I will. And so when I will, and I talk about what I will do, then it's a law of attraction. I end up doing it. But if I just say, I need to start exercising, I'm never going to do it. But if I say I will exercise every day at 6:45, then I'm going to do it.
That's
Seems
amazing.
seems simple, but most people don't slow down to think about this. And when they do, it'll change their life.
And it's been around 50 years. I mean, I've probably heard it hundreds of times. That's the power of the message is once you get it, you go. What's the partnership between leadership and building relationships?
I think the best leaders in relationship building, they must lean in on their curiosity. And like when I lead rooms, or if I was leading a team, I always challenge leaders this. If you're leading a team and let's say you're leading your sales meeting, are you talking the whole 50 minutes, 55 minutes? Or are you asking more questions? When your reps or your team come to you and ask a question, do you say, what kind of question is that? Are you an idiot? Or do you say, hey, great question. Tell me what you think. Well, I don't know. I need your help. I know, but I hired you for a reason. I believe in you. Tell me what you think. Great leaders remove fear from their cultures. And when there's fear, fear loves to hide, specifically in sales teams. And when you're afraid to ask for help, you're afraid to say, hey, my pipeline stinks. Hey, I don't know how to handle a lot of objection. Or, hey, what do I say when the client says this? If we're afraid to talk about that, then instead what happens is that now we actually end up practicing on our clients and we wing it. And I always joke people, I said, imagine if I called your client and told him, hey, remember that sales rep, he or she practices on you. They wing it. So I think leaders and relationship building, they remove fear. They embrace curiosity. They embrace a mindset of appreciation, because appreciation just takes time. I always say the difference between appreciation and recognition. Recognition takes money, appreciation takes time. And I don't know about you, Steve, but like when someone says, hey, Casey, I read your book, fantastic. What? You a-hole? Why'd you say that? I mean, I'm joking, right? Everyone loves it. People love hearing positive things about yourself. So why don't we do it? Yeah. When we were kids, we were taught to treat people the way we want to be treated. But when we get in these corporate jobs, I can have an ego and I can be tough and verbose and bravado. But I'm like, but why? You can be confident, but you don't need to be an a-hole.
No. And a guest had said a few weeks ago, people want to be seen. And I use the scoreboard at a sporting event. When the kiss cam comes up, or it just goes, how do people go? They go crazy. That's what you do with people, is make them be seen. Hey, give me an answer. I hired you. I want to see you. That's inbred in every human being in the world. And I love that. Being genuine is a part of this. You can't build a relationship if you're lying to people, if you're not being authentic or genuine. How does somebody build that, grow that skill? Because I think it's a skill.
I think practice, one, I think you got to practice. I think tone is super important. And then it goes back to belief. Like if I genuinely believe I want to learn, if I genuinely believe I want to help somebody, then I think you can go ask anything. But if I'm like kind of dancing around, how do I ask that? Then I think people are going to smell, and I think usually where your genuineness and authenticity kind of shines is when you ask a follow-up question and you show someone you've actually listened to them.
Yeah. Well, you read my mind, because I was going to ask you, because I think the other skill sets are questioning and listening. For sales, it's built massive stuff for me to question. I have a philosophy, it's called ask, shut up, listen, and ask, the ASLA principle. And that's what you're saying. Talk about being quiet, listening and asking.
Yeah. So I created this thing on, it's funny, when you're an entrepreneur, you kind of think of these things on the fly and then they become your things. So like, I'll say so tell me if you can hear this. Did you hear that?
No.
Of course you did. No one heard that. I tapped my hand 3 times. So what I do is I ask a question, create space for you to think about it. So what most people, and I'd love for the listeners to think about this, watch how often people in your family, your network, your work, they violate what I call the 2 or 3 in 1 rule. And what I mean by that is, Steve, so how's life? How's business? How's Golden State doing? And what's family up to? Jeez, that was like 5 questions at one. And what happens is most sellers, or most people, when you're building a relationship with somebody, the person you asked 5 or 4 questions at once, like shotgun style, they're going to remember the last one you asked. Now you as the person, because you're so concerned about talking, you're going to now forget the 4 questions you asked before the 5th one, which those could have been good questions too. And then you're going to go on and you're going to forget to talk about it because you're so worried about what you want to say. And so for me, what I teach people, and I teach myself, and I practice this all the time, is I say, hey, tell me one or two things that got you happy about your business right now. Do the 3 tap. And you might say something, and then I'll say, great, tell me more about that. With genuine curiosity in my voice, because I genuinely want to know. And what happens, I've yet to have anybody, Steve, say, Casey, go after yourself. I don't want to tell you more about me.
No.
They do. And like when you genuinely are curious and you embody it, it's the best, because you're learning about people and you're kind of surrendering to what can happen.
Yeah, this is brilliant. Audience, I hope you're writing notes, because when you jump on a call, you don't know people, there's animosity, not for me and you, because we're going to jump into a question. But this is how you decipher, but you stop that animosity or that anxiety. And again, audience, 3-finger tap I'm doing on my leg right now. I used to be really bad about that. And you're speaking about me. Once I learned to be quiet, shut up and listen, I built such a big network of great people. Now, talk about in this conversation of sales where you get somebody that's uncomfortable, being aggressive, that type of thing. How do we handle that?
Like, how do we fix them?
Well, not really. I don't know if we can fix people, but how we control that control is the wrong word. How we make the conversation flow back to the servant's heart? Then, they're Italian. Casey, the sale, oh my God, it's $10,000. You're crazy. Why would you? They come aggressively at you.
Mm-hmm. So I always say, I've never sold a deal in my life. Because if I'm selling something, people are going to resist. But if I ask great questions of value and become a storyteller, they're going to sell themselves. And so I think, if someone said, hey, Casey, I want you to go take your shirt off and run around the room right now. Why would I do that? Nothing, I'm out. But if you said, hey, tell me if I helped you, if I shared a story of someone that did something really crazy, but it really brought a lot of happiness to his life, would you be interested in hearing about it? And if I'm joking, this is a really bad example, sure, but I'm being sarcastic. The point is, if you believe what you do matters, which is a word I'm passionate about, and you believe that your solution or offering can change a life, can bring value because you have a story to back it up from how you've helped someone else similar to them, then you should be able to ask questions to kind of like lead them. Now, when I first learned this kind of mindset, and the gentleman that kind of like helped train me about this, he called me the most unconsciously competent person he's ever trained. I go, that doesn't sound good. And kind of how I laughed the same thing you. And he goes, I'm going to give you tools to teach what you do that comes natural to you that you don't realize you're doing. I'm going to help you teach it. And so I had to get over the fact of I don't want to manipulate somebody. He goes, Casey, would you ever try to convince somebody to do something where you win and they lose? I go, no, I never did that. He goes, of course you wouldn't. This is called value-based selling. They don't know they have a problem yet, but they're going to have a problem based on your experience. Or if it's someone in your ideal customer profile that you've seen similar challenges, ask questions that are going to expose how you help other people. So I think that's what I think the art is. But I think people who are going down the path of convince, feature, they're not ready to hear it, right? And so I think one way to quickly solve that, I find, is a question I like to ask usually in the beginning of a meeting, which is, if I was meeting you, let's say we talked, today's what, Friday, we talked on Monday. I might say, hey, Steve, I know you and I talked on Monday. I have some information prepared based on our conversation there. But more importantly, describe what would be an ideal outcome for you in the time we have today. So now you're giving me the answers to the test. And so usually sometimes when I train people on this, their ego says, well, I'm not going to ask that question. The client said, I've been begging this guy for a meeting. He expects me to present. Well, how do you know? That's the story you're telling yourself. Wouldn't you want to imagine if something changed? Wouldn't you want to know that? And he or she might say, oh yeah. So imagine if like I had this presentation ready to go, and I think you're going to want to work with me, blah, 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 but something changed. And maybe it's nothing need to present on something else. That question alone, I think, prevents us going down a path of talking way too much and helps us focus on what the person you're meeting with wants to talk about, which allows for a better and more authentic relationship to be formed.
$1 million question, because it frames the conversation comfortably. Anxiety again, and even a second meeting, they're like, oh, is he going to sell me? Say that question again for the audience, because again, your servant's heart giving away free, but audience, if you write this down, I'm going to write it down too. It's a game changer in sales.
Yep.
So what's that question again?
Yep. Steve, thanks for your time. I know we spoke. I'm role playing this, everybody. Steve, I know we talked on Monday. I have some information prepared before we meet, but more importantly, describe what would be an ideal outcome for you in the time we have today. And then the real gold, and I'll give this away for free too, because it's karma, and karma always pays us back, is whatever the customer says, or the lead, or maybe your employee says, great, tell me more about that. Or great, tell me why.
Yeah.
3-tap. And watch. It's like taking your dog off leash at the beach. When you ask those questions, the dog's going to run and let them go.
Yeah.
Meaning they're going to keep talking, and they're going to tell you everything because you're genuinely curious.
Yeah. And you're authentic, powerful because you're authentic. And what a great, I'm such a great host. I know, audience, I'm half kidding, I'm half not, because what a great, I know it's so funny I say that, but it's true, because a great segue into the book, because you give all the skills here that what we're talking about that you get in your book that they can purchase. By the way, audience, I'm going to purchase it right after the show. The other thing with the conversation on the 3 taps, do we ask the question, like, what's your challenges for your business today, Casey? Do we tap 3 times? What happens if they don't respond after the 3 taps?
Keep staring.
Just let them mull over it till they give you an answer.
Let them think. Silence is your friend.
You are brilliant. I've said that twice. He must be smart. Let's jump into the book, because you gave me a great testimonial that you had yesterday from a very powerful podcaster. What's the mission? What are people going to learn when you get your book? What's the title, of course?
Mm-hmm. So the title is called Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. I always tell some people, a lot will ask me, well, why'd you write it? How'd you come up with the title? And I use, this is half sarcasm, but half also true. Do you remember the book? Do you remember the movie Christmas Vacation?
Oh, yeah.
Remember when Griswold's out in the forest and he sees his tree and it's glowing?
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what happened. So I was in corporate for 20 years. And I would say right guy, right time, right place. Had a great client, great team. With all that thing kind of put together, allowed me to be our number 1 rep for 10 years straight before I moved into an executive role. I'm at probably about, I don't know, 2014-ish. I was traveling to Dallas, and I had some younger associates I was training, and they were like kind of like the little brothers. I was the big brother, and they wanted to make big brother. They wanted my respect. They wanted to like do it. I could tell they were nervous. And then so I were creating these environments of practice. And I told them when I was introducing them to like our largest customer, when I was our executive sponsor for, I said, my expectation is that you're going to win every deal, but you're not. More importantly, my expectation is you're going to win people first. So, and they looked at me like, okay, I go, so, but for example, tell me, how can we win people when we lose a deal? Blank stare. I said, think about this. Imagine if I lost, I was in the staffing and consulting business. So let's say I lost a staffing deal or consulting deal. And imagine if you're the client, Steve, and I followed up with you and I said, hey, Steve, it's Casey with ABC Company. Really bummed we weren't able to get it done for you, but I wanted to follow up to make sure that you had a great experience with your vendor you chose. And I want to make sure the consultant that you hired is doing a great job and off to a great start. Just that level of follow-up. What happened? 2 things happened. Either the client would say, Casey, I haven't even heard from the vendor I chose yet. Or they'd say, you know what? Your timing's interesting because the person we hired, they're not ramping up quickly. Is your person still available? I think I want to give them a chance. I'd pick up low-hanging fruit just by following up. And I said, so we have to win the relationship, guys, not the deal. And when I said that, I was like, ooh, that's it. That's the title. And I get goosebumps telling the story.
You should. Yeah. And let me add to this. The third component, and you probably thought, but I'm going to put it out there, is they're doing good with that agent, whoever is working with, the company's taking care of them. Because you cared, you served them without serving them. You asked if they're okay. I'm here for any help. I've had this happen where people come back months later and go, hey, it finally didn't work out, or they raised our price. Something happened. They come back because you took care of me. Audience, this is brilliant. I keep saying brilliant. Sound like I'm from the UK. This is $1 million ideas, because you do that multiple times, right, Casey? Mm-hmm. Read this book. It just flows, right?
Well, embarrassing thing to say, I've read it 10 times, not because I'm an egomaniac, just through the editing process or when I work with people, or I actually did the Audible book and I read it myself, which was a fun project to go through. And I learn from myself, Steve, every time I read it, which reminds people that, and myself, I'm flawed just like everybody else. And the things I wrote about are really, I didn't mean it to be a book of reminders, but it's the book for someone brand new who has no idea how to build relationships. Well, here's 6 things you can focus on that'll help you build relationships. Bring energy to a call, set expectations, be a great listener, document, use your CRM, check your ego, practice what we talk about, being your authentic self, and be patient. Let relationships form. Let them take time. Sometimes I've worked with, I've seen people north of 30 that, like, they were at one time a great seller, but they forgot to do those things. Like, how did I forget to do that? Well, it's fixable. Go fix it. So it's there, and I guess a lot of the stuff I wrote about, it was based on, like, when I was at the top of my game in corporate as a seller and a leader, what I do, like, how did I do it year in and year out? Well, it was these 6 things. And so these are 6 things I've done to build my own business. And the work I'm doing now, I didn't mean to do it. I mean, the coaching and speaking, I kind of fell into that on accident, but I believe what I do matters, brother. And I know it works. And so I'm on this mission now just to kind of keep reinstilling that mindset for myself and practicing the things I preach.
I'm looking in the mirror. You're much more handsome. So that side of the mirror is much better than mine. But it's everything you said I've been doing. And, some of you out there know me, big things have happened in my life because they do exactly what you do. So I know 1,000,000% that if you do this, and isn't it true, Casey, anybody can do this? This is not, now what's going to play in the NFL? I'm 5'8" and too short. Can anybody do this? Take this book and run with it and do quite well?
1,000%. I mean, the stories I've had from people, I had a story from a guy. I mean, I didn't work in insurance, but I had a guy who works in insurance, and, like, he reached out to me. He said, this book changed my life. I did, which, again, when I hear that, it blows me away. Super humbling. He goes, I did these 6 things in a year. I doubled my salary.
Oh, man.
Now, I'm not saying that's going to work for everybody, but you're going to have more friends if you follow these 6 things and do them throughout your life, than enemies.
Yeah.
And anybody can do anything. I totally agree with what you're saying. It just comes down to mindset. Just either you will or you won't. I choose the word will.
Take action and make the decision to move forward and pivot if it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And what an industry for your book, because what a cutthroat industry is insurance. And this guy did it and still built. Guys, get the book. Girls, get the book, because that story right there is sold me on the book way before that. But get the book. And I know I'm not a promoter, I don't do all that, but this is what I'm living, what he's talking about. Well, before we run out of time, you've got a cool podcast. I'm not a father, so it's really got me excited. Talk about your podcast and the name of it.
Yeah, the podcast is called the Quarterback Dadcast, and I'm in season 6. And it's kind of a play on words. As I played quarterback at college. Shout out to Uncle Rico. Whenever I talk about my college football days, I make fun of myself. And Uncle Rico is the character from Napoleon Dynamite, if you don't know that. And the goal was, I wanted to do something for fathers when there wasn't a lot of things out there. And so I thought, if I can create the same mindset of how I'm trying to help sales teams and leaders become more vulnerable, humble, and curious, well, those same things will help me be a great dad. So selfishly, Steve, I always tell people I get free therapy on every episode because I learn about what other dads are doing. And I've interviewed almost 300 dads, and it's a podcast with each episode's about an hour. They come out every Thursday morning, and the goal is to talk about gratitude, learn about how our parents shaped us, what values were important, what was those journey, what was life like growing up, have we shared these stories with our kids, what values are we teaching our kids and why, what's an area of our dad game that maybe we're not doing really good and we can improve, and then Lily, it's just I start with a blank page, and an hour later I have a page full of notes and goosebumps in my body, and we both feel like we went through therapy.
Great title, because I'm a big NFL football fan, played football, didn't play quarterback. I was behind you at running back, but great title. But even more so, you dads out there, go ahead and listen, because what a powerful tool, because running a family is a business. It. I've, stepkids, it's a business, bills. And that's what you're doing, is giving people resources to help run their family better. And you're definitely a servant's heart. God bless you, Casey, for what you're doing. I support you 1,000,000%.
Thank you.
What's the name of the book? And thanks for being a great guest, by the way. Time flew. I'm like, gosh, dang it. Well, we're going to have you come back. So audience, I put it out there. He's coming back for part 2. We need to learn more. Name of the book, where they can find it, how they can connect with you, because I'm sure people want to talk to you.
The book's called Win the Relationship, Not the Deal. It's on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle, paperback, or on Audible. I am very active on LinkedIn. Hopefully you're seeing my curiosity, and this is how I show up always. So this is the same dude you're going to get no matter if I speak on stages or if we're having a beer at the bar. Connecting LinkedIn's a great way. My website, just my first last name together. So CASEYJACOX.com. It's, I just have my site redone. So there's stories of kind of talks about all the work I do, but that's probably the best way. And if you want to reach out and learn more, please do. Cause I love connecting with people.
And you want to hire him as a speaker, because if I do an event, he'll be speaking, definitely, because this is stuff people need to hear over and over again. Before we close, I want to do a quick improv fun thing, because we talk serious stuff and good stuff. So I've reserved a table at a restaurant for you. Table of 4. You're going to sit in one of the chairs. Who would you invite to the table, dead or alive? Why would you invite them? And what food would you order?
Ooh, I like this. My dad, because he passed away in 2021. I mean, December 2029, 2021. I'd like him to be there. My son. And I would say Voltaire.
Voltaire,
French philosopher.
Oh, that's interesting.
And people might be, what the hell? Voltaire? One of the great quotes Voltaire had back in like the 1500s, he goes, a man, I don't think didn't mean to be sexist, so I'm going to help him out. He said, a man or a woman is not judged by his or her answers, but by his or her questions. So I would love to learn why he was so curious back in the day. And then I would be able to like reinforce that with my son, to make sure he's being curious, which he's an 18-year-old college freshman, and he's super curious. And I think it'd be fun just to like have him learn that, listen, dude, Ryder, my son, they were curious back in the 1500s. It's 2025 and we're still not curious enough. Like, success leaves clues. So shout out to I'd be able to see my pops again. I'd be able to spend time with my son, and then we'd learn from a French philosopher on curiosity.
Fantastic. What food do we eat?
Oh yeah, sorry. Well,
That's
he's
right.
French, so, but we're going to go chicken parmigiana. That sounds good.
I'll have to steal a chair, because that's one of my favorites. So thank you. I'm
Or
not going to play the table
5. Steve's coming.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, it's your table. It's our table. We can do whatever we want. No,
Perfect.
This is great. Thank you again, Casey. It's just brilliant. And audience, here's the end of the show call to action. Hope you stayed. I know you've learned a lot. I've learned a lot. I got a whole show notes of pages. Got to bring him back. But to me, a podcast is a gift. He talked about listening, asking questions, and learning. Well, here's the journey I see. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. You have access to Casey's link. And you're talking to somebody and they're talking about they need to be better leaders or need to grow, or you hear something that fits what Casey was telling you on the podcast. You share that link. They listen and they reach out to Casey. And maybe they hire Casey. Maybe Casey gives them a tip or two and they grow. I can't think of a better gift than maybe a Maserati. Just kidding. A better gift than that. That's what I see all podcasts do. The same thing with Casey's podcast. If you're a dad out there and there's a tip on one of his guest shows, take that link, and you don't have to listen the whole hour. They can find that part. Do that for them if you want. But when you give somebody a tip or a resource like that changes their life or makes an impact, small, medium, or large, doesn't matter. You've done the servant's heart. And that's what I want 1 million people to do this year. And I want to thank all of you. Me and Casey want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you all in the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.